So since I'm waiting for all the other parts to come in, I figured I'd take this carburetor apart and see how bad it is inside. Pop this off, just like that. Hopefully this will come right on out. It should. So once I get this out, I'll be able to disconnect the throttle cable and all that good stuff. Take it to the bench. Or actually, I could probably even just take it apart here without disconnecting the throttle cable, just to make this easier. Yeah, it actually looks perfect where the camera's at. I'm curious to see how bad this carburetor is on the inside. I hope it's not that bad. I did order a rebuild kit for it just in case, but we'll see. Okay, so we're gonna have one ending my Raptor, or 10, like most ending let's see where. Right. Oh yeah, that's pretty disgusting. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So it looks like though all the rubber is actually in good shape. What I find interesting on these is that they have an accelerator pump. It's for a tiny little engine. That's very interesting. That's that's what we're dealing with. That is what happens to gasoline when it sits in an engine for too long, nowadays anyways. These don't use, it looks like it's an 8mm or something, probably 7mm. It's most likely going to be a 7. Yep, emulsion tube out too, I guess. Oh, that little plug. Take all the rubber out of this because I'm going to soak this thing down real good with some solvent. Ooh, that needle's stuck in there pretty good. That's going to be fun to get out. And it looks like it is. Hopefully it didn't knock the float off of adjustment. Yeah. You see how nasty that is. Hopefully that still springs. Looks like it does, so that's good. I don't think these are 4 valves. Knowing Yamaha, it might be. Get the choke out. That doesn't look too bad. It's expected for it to look that good though. This is broken. So my carburetor heater, basically what it does, I probably will just leave it alone because being in Arizona, and I'll tell the customer that too, being here in Arizona, you're never ever going to have to worry about this issue. So what the carburetor heaters do, or throttle body heaters, if you ever notice on a lot of vehicles have them, and it's just simply the fact that whenever your throttle is open for a long period of time and you're driving, and say if you're in like Alaska or like just somewhere, just anywhere cold climate, your throttle blade can actually get stuck open because it'll freeze open, and then next thing you know, you have no control over your throttle when you're doing 40-50 miles an hour in a car or on a kid's bike. Last thing you want is their throttle sticking open. But we're never ever going to see those kind of temperatures, so I'm probably just going to eliminate that. I'll just take this ground off of here and take this off completely. It's most likely going to be a 10. Let's see if I guessed right. Yes, I did. All this is a heater element. That's all it is. So 12 volts gets applied to it. The outside part is ground, and it will just basically keep the carburetor warm in cold weather. So the carburetor is towards that camera. PCD screws, they are M4, red. The link there is one. You have to probably 8mm, red. So usually, most cases in M4 by M6 or M8, it's the size for most carburetor holes and stuff like that. No, that's pretty stuck in there. I thought it came loose, but it broke my screwdriver. That's gonna be a fun one. Okay, so I got the jets out. In the process of taking the pilot jet out, I busted that part of the carburetor, but it should be okay because looking at the float, I was looking at where it sits, and it looks like the fuel comes up to about right there where my tip of my thumbnail is at. So you can see that it's going to be plenty high enough, and it's never going to suck that much fuel during idle anyways to really suck the, suck the bowl down enough to stall it during idle. So it should be just fine. It's unfortunate that that happened though, but I'll probably soak this in some sort of solvent, and when the parts come in, put it all together. The carb kit finally came in for this thing. It's been a couple days. Actually really quick shipping. So the kit I ended up getting was this one. It's made by Outlaw. It was like 16 bucks plus tax. I mean, it's like just shy of $20 versus if you go through Rocky Mountain or anything like that and try to get the individual jets and stuff. They're like, I think just for the pilot jet for this thing was like $10 or something like that, and plus $7 shipping. So, it seems like no matter what carb kit you get nowadays, especially with the fuel we have nowadays, they're all probably going to last about the same amount of time, as long as you don't keep fuel sitting in them forever. Anyways, this little plug right here is pretty important. Don't lose that like I did. Luckily I had another one I just pressed in there. So another thing I was going to point out real quick, because this has an accelerator pump, and a lot of these Mikuni's accelerator pumps seems like they're about the same size. So the old spring, wherever it's at, I was going to say, if you ever need to replace this, just look up a 24 scale RC crawler or an SCX 24 RC rock crawler, and these springs are exactly the size that you will need. And you can see it fits right on in there, and it'll give a little bit more spring pressure too, which is always a good thing with accelerator pumps. This kit also came with the spring and the needle and the little plastic spacer and everything that goes to this, but we're not going to use that because everything in here is pretty good still. They really don't wear out. It also comes with the diaphragm needle centering seat that goes down inside of there. I'm not going to replace that because usually those don't ever wear out. I have seen though where they do wear out, and engines start running really rich, and no matter where your main jetting is, it's always going to be off. So that's why they provide those little needle seats like that. So I already got these jets put together. I meant like I got them tightened together already. Pilot jet, once again, shouldn't have any issue. It'll run just fine. You guys will get to see that. Here we go. And here's the new float needle. Yeah, you can kind of see where the floats are sitting. That is actually still perfectly adjusted. The rule of thumb, you want your floats to basically, if you tilt your carburetor like this, if you go like that, you want where they kind of sit on the spring, and then you want to see the floats kind of level with the body of the carburetor, and then you want to be able to push it like that, and it should spring back. Now if it's sitting all the way in like that and no spring or anything like that, it means your float is out of adjustment, and you're going to have issues with it running rich and all that stuff, or you're just going to have issues with it leaking through the bowl or anything like that. And then when installing new seals, I always take some grease and go like this. Kind of helps them seat nicer, and make sure you don't leave big globs like that, of course, because that will clog things up, and you'll just be in square one again. Semi greased up, not too bad, because you don't want to get small orifices clogged with grease, because that will happen. Alright, so I have my adapter here that goes from an M16 by 1.0 to a M10 by 1.5. I had to do that because Yamaha likes to, it was just easier to do this rather than spending all $60 on a Petcock valve. So you can see, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Made this thing out of a piece of aluminum. It was not super easy to make, but just enough to tighten threads. Essentially all I did was remade this piece, because that's a reverse thread right there. And that's an M16 by 1.0 right there. And so I just bought an aftermarket, little cheap Petcock valve, because these seem like they work just fine. And tapped it to an M10 rather than reverse thread, as you can see, like the factory one, because Yamaha wants, after shipping and taxes and everything, it's almost $80, and then through Rocky Mountain with shipping and taxes, you're looking at $60 for this, and it's absolutely stupid. So for the price of a tap and some sealing compound, for especially for fuel, I have made all of this stuff work with each other, and it should be just fine. Even though we have an O-ring on that, I'm going to put some more of this fuel thread sealer on there. Use get this positioned where I want it, and then I'll just snug up that nut. So real quick, to make sure the accelerator pump goes down, and it looks like it does. This screw's a little bit long for that, but that will do just fine. Heating up the rubber, because like I said, it's old. Either old rubber or cold rubber usually is a little bit difficult, so this just makes it a little easier. What we'll do is slip this in there. Try to get the cables behind where they're supposed to go. Alright, for startup, I don't have the actual battery for it yet, but